If you want to learn about not having a mental self-image, watch your dog or your cat. They don't have an opinion about who they are. They just are who they are. How can I love myself? What is this? I don't remember ever saying that you should love yourself. So is it bad to love yourself? No, of course not. Is it better than to hate yourself? Yes, of course. Now, let's start with, many people are uncomfortable with themselves. They dislike who they are. Perhaps they dislike their body, how they look. Perhaps they dislike who they are as a person, don't feel they are good enough, or are self-critical a lot. Many people live with a negative self-image, which of course all consists of certain types of mind activity. And that's not pleasant. And it may be for some of those people, once they realize that they live with a mind pattern that continually criticizes them and says negative things about them, they begin to realize that it's a mind pattern. This self-hatred is a mind pattern, and that it's harmful, it's not pleasant, and they can go beyond it and begin to replace it with more negative thoughts more positive thoughts about themselves. And having positive thoughts about yourself, that kind of thing would perhaps usually be called beginning to love yourself, to feel good about yourself. But it's not easy, that shift from feeling bad about yourself to feeling good about yourself. Sometimes it requires a lot of convincing. I would regard loving yourself as perhaps an intermediate stage in one's awakening. But the essence of the awakened consciousness is that you go beyond having a particular idea in your mind that represents yourself, as a mental self-image that you relate to. Because basically it's ego, a mental self-image of who you think, this is what I am, this is who I am. If you want to learn about not having a mental self-image, watch your dog or your cat. They don't have an opinion about who they are. They just are who they are. So that removes an enormous amount of problems from their lives. Of course, they don't have the mind activity that creates a self-image in their head. They are pre-mind, and therefore their life is far less problematic than human life. You can see how wonderful it is not to have a self-image. You can look at an ugly dog or an ugly cat. They don't have a problem with that. Even an overweight dog or cat, they're okay. No self-image. Or a dog that has lost its sexual powers. It doesn't become part of the dog's self-image. The dog says, "Oh my God, I can't father puppies anymore. I've lost my male power. How dreadful!" It's not part of it. The dog doesn't have a self-image. If there's no sexual desire, there's no sexual desire. There's no thinking around that. Nothing to do with me. There's no problem. Or the cat suddenly can't jump up this fence anymore. It's getting too old. The cat doesn't say, oh, I've become useless now. What's the point in caring? It just is. It doesn't detract from the self-image of the cat because it doesn't have a self-image. So how wonderful to live without an image of who you are, because you are the presence. You're not the form that's a temporary expression of you, but you are the underlying presence. And when you feel yourself as the underlying presence, you don't need to live through some mental image of who you are. And that's where you go beyond hating yourself, but you also go beyond loving yourself. It's just being yourself. It's similar to the dog, but it's not a regressive step. It's a step forward for humans. You go beyond the mind-made sense of self. You don't fall back to the pre-mind-made sense of self. You don't need to live through a self-image of who you are. The more presence that comes into your life, the more you feel yourself to be the presence, not some mental construct. Of course, somewhere on the periphery of your mind, there may still be there is a little bit of a mental construct, but it does not provide the basis for your sense of identity anymore. Of course, yes, you know your body is too thin or too fat, says the mind, but that's just how it is, or this or that, lacking. Yes, there's some vague self-image still there, but it is not the foundation for your sense of who you are. The foundation for your sense of who you are is you are awareness, you are presence. And that's a liberation from the self-image. And that's wonderful. So it's not go beyond hating yourself and then also go beyond loving yourself. If you need to go through the stage of loving yourself because you cannot go directly from hating yourself to presence, then do. Go through the stage of loving and then step beyond that.